Hello, everyone, and welcome to a studio. I want to welcome you, Havi Shirdan.
Thank you.
Havi, recently you lost your mother.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us the story? And I guess the importance of the story is why you're here as well.
Yeah. My mother is and has always been the love of my life. And recently, in September 2015, my mother, who was in the best nursing home in the world, she got an aspiration pneumonia.
Okay.
And she was rushed to Mackenzie Health Hospital. She was really on her deathbed.
And for those who don't
Yes.
know, it's a hospital in Richmond Hill.
Richmond Hill,
in Ontario,
Mackenzie,
Richmond Hill.
yeah.
Okay.
And she was rushed there, of course, with me and my son, Ran. We are with her 24/7, even when she's in the nursing home. We became a family there. And she was on her deathbed. She was really in horrible situation. She couldn't swallow, she couldn't talk. She was almost unconscious.
In the hospital?
In the hospital, when we brought her there in an ambulance. She was hospitalized there, and after it was, I think, on the 6th or 7th of September 2015, and in the first days, in spite of everything that they did, she wasn't better, and we were really scared. But then we called the staff and we told them, because we know her so well, what antibiotics to give her, how much, how many milligrams, and like a miracle, she got better.
Wow.
And I had pneumonia at the same time, so most of the time I was home, and my son Ran spent 3 times a day with her, every time for 3 hours. So he was with her nonstop.
You're blessed with such a son.
I am. And on the 13th or 14th of September, after she celebrated, because she was so sick, her 90th birthday on September 11th, there in the hospital.
Yeah.
My son called me and he said, wow, Grandma is much better. She even talked to me on the phone, which she usually didn't like to talk on the phone. And we were so happy and so relieved. And after that, he came home and we were celebrating, and we knew that the next day she would come back to the nursing home. This was amazing. This was the best thing that happened to us.
Wow.
3 hours after that, he went back to her just to celebrate with her. It was almost midnight, but we always came to her at all the crazy hours. And he was like cheerful when entering the room. She was in a semi-private room because of Manulife insurance. All the best things for her. She was lying near the window, and they tied both her hands because she couldn't swallow, so she was fed through her nose with a tube. After that, we were told that they are not allowed to tie both hands.
I was going to say, why would they tie both her hands?
Not because of her, because the tendency of people who are fed through their nose is while sleeping
to pull it.
Yeah, but they are not allowed. It's against the law. If at all, they are allowed to tie one hand while bringing a sitter for 24/7, because otherwise a patient can just die and no one will know.
They're helpless.
Yeah, completely. And she couldn't talk and she couldn't swallow and she had all the tubes in the world and that's it. So my son is entering her room smiling, and then he calls me, and he's not a panicking guy. He is so down to earth, and he called me and he panicked and he said, something happened. her gaze was like crazy, and she's never like this. She's not because she's my mother, she's an intellectual, but very modest and never complaining, always thanking and thankful and smiling. And all of a sudden, he said, "This is not grandma." And 3 hours before, he just left, and she was perfect. He said, "Something happened, I don't know what." She had an awful bruise on her lip, down lip, left side, and her hands were bruised. And we have the pictures.
But her hands were tied, so she couldn't have bruised herself.
Yeah, and she didn't eat through the mouth.
But I mean, her hands were...
So what happened to the lip?
Right, and what happened? How'd you
And she was like shaking, and her lips were tight, and her fists were closed like this, and her gaze was, she didn't react to my son. He was the love of her life, and being with pneumonia, I rushed to the hospital immediately to see her, and she wasn't herself. I've never, even when my father was killed, I've never seen her like this. She wasn't herself. She didn't react to us. She was like crazy look, traumatized. I didn't know what it is. No one told us. I went to the staff, but there was no doctor because it's nighttime. Yeah. So I just asked for a few sheets of paper, and I wrote a love letter to the doctor for the morning when he or she comes in, just that my mother has to go back to the nursing home, because when it came to the pneumonia, she was much better, but her condition was horrible, and we just knew intuitively that she won't survive if she stays there. Mm-hmm. Early morning, the doctor, it was a female, doctor, she called me, and she agreed with me that psychologically and mentally, it's better for my mother to go back to the nursing home. And that's what happened. She even wanted to test her swallowing. I said, no, never mind this. I want her back in the nursing home. We'll take care of her.
Okay. So you transfer her back to the nursing home.
In an ambulance.
Okay.
And we were waiting for her there immediately, and the whole staff that are like family to her, to us. She had a separate room and her own bathroom and everything private. Mm-hmm. And she loved being there because it was called the party room, because we were there like Cinderella hours, midnight, this, all the time. We entered the room, the staff were crying, actually, and they said, "What happened?" She was the same, only now her hands were untied, so both of them were like shaking above her chest, above her breasts, and above her crotch, and she looked completely crazy.
It wasn't your mother?
It wasn't my mother at all. And her teeth were clenched, and again, the bruise, and her hands completely
So let me ask
bruised.
you something.
Yeah.
Before you removed your mother from the hospital to the nursing home.
I asked what happened.
Nobody gave you how did
No.
But how did she get bruises on her arms?
We don't know.
And
We
her
don't
lips?
know. I thought maybe blood tests, and they are very frail at this
we can
age.
understand.
But,
But there's no blood test on her lips.
I told them, I thought maybe they moved the tube, but the tube, we didn't know.
Okay.
We knew one thing, that if we don't rescue her, she will not survive.
Got you.
This was our goal.
So she's back in the nursing home.
Not talking at all anymore. 2 days before that, she was talking to me on the phone,
Right.
and she had a sense of humor and everything. All of a sudden, she wasn't herself. And I tried at home, because I always empathize with my mother, to lie down with my fists like this, my teeth clenched, and my hands above my breasts, like shaking. It's a hard it's a hard pose to lie in. And she was a tiny, fragile woman. I don't know how she survived with this, but she did it for days. Like, it was crazy. And
It was like she was traumatized.
completely. It was like her soul is not there.
But let me ask you something. Back in the nursing home, they see the difference between
Completely.
the woman that went in and the woman
Completely.
that came back. And
They asked us. They didn't understand.
nobody had an idea what happened?
No one.
I mean, doctors saw her. Couldn't they tell you where'd you get those bruises? And
No, it didn't make sense. The whole story didn't make sense. But there she was, and we shared the same goal. To try and bring her back to her old self. That's it.
Okay.
To give her confidence. And we were there days and nights with the staff, my son and me. For 2 weeks, she didn't say a word. She started eating slowly. She could swallow, thank God. But she didn't talk. And every time a PSW man in the nursing home that she knew everybody, and they were, as I said, family to her, she got the same crazy look, and immediately her hands were like this. This was like a mystery, but the good thing for us is that she was alive. And we gave her confidence slowly back, but she didn't even say one word to the whole staff for a month. Joanne Snyder or Heather Riddell from Mackenzie Health, which I was surprised about, the hospital. And the woman told me she is from the management of the hospital, and she would like to share with me something that went wrong while my mother was in the hospital. And I started thanking her so much because just sharing a thing that was wrong, usually you try to hide it. To make it short, there were like 7 phone calls from her and from Charmaine Ambrose Hospital's patient care, etc., etc. And then we had a meeting there. I came there to the hospital. It was on the 26th of November 2017, 2.5 months after my mother came back.
2017 or 2015?
15.
Okay.
15.
Okay.
And it was 2.5 months after my mother came back from the hospital.
Was released, okay.
I, of course, thought that they gave her the wrong medication. She was 90 years old, but she's alive, so who cares?
That's okay. Yeah.
They paid in the hospital for my parking. They took me to a meeting room, and I was sitting there with 4 women, Charmaine Ambrose, Hospital's patient care, Joanne Snyder, administrative assistant, Heather Riddell, operations director, emergency medicine, critical care and patient flow, and Dr. V. Chan, a doctor in the department. All of them were sitting with me for 30 minutes, asking me about how my mother was while she was in the hospital and after she came back to the nursing home, and I told them what I'm telling you now. And then they said, among them, this has to do with what happened. And I still don't know what happened. After 30 minutes, they said that they want to keep in touch with me and thank you for my cooperation.
And all this time, you don't know what happened to your mother?
I don't have a clue. And they stand up, and they shake my hand, and they said, but what happened? And they said, do you really want to know? And I said, that's why I'm here.
Is that what they actually told you?
Yeah. Everything sounds like crazy, but this is our reality. So they were sitting back, looking at each other, and then they told me that a nurse came into the room to check on my mother, and then she saw that the curtain around the bed, each bed has a curtain, was completely closed. She opened it and she saw the PSW Shodja Adin Mohammed Zadeh, who was the one who washed the patients and cleaned them, very aggressively playing with my mother's breasts, sucking her nipples,
Oh my God.
and in other places. And then they said, you don't want to know the details. And they said, I need to know. And they said, no, we are 4 women. We know how bad it is. And they said, I didn't know if the PSW was a man or a woman. So I asked, was it a man, a woman? They said, a man. And I said, maybe he was just cleaning her. That's me. And they said, no, it was horrible. You don't want to say, we'll keep in touch with you, tell us, we'll call you every day.
Oh my
and
God.
we thank you so much for cooperating.
But this happened when?
It was on September 14th,
So they took them from September 14th
2.5
till
months.
16 to call you and
Yes.
tell you what happened?
So the
I
first
don't-
thing I asked
I don't
them
understand that.
was, what did the police do? And they said, we didn't call the police. The nurse came out of the room.
So there was actual witness that actually saw what happened.
Completely.
So we don't-
And she went to the staff desk, and then they called the management and the CEO, and
I want to speed it up a little bit.
Yes.
Because I see here
Of course.
there's an actual article. So this story came out already.
Yeah.
I've got here, this is, I believe, from August 3rd, 2017.
yeah. So I'll say shortly
Go
just
ahead. Go ahead.
So what happened was I consulted with a lawyer because I didn't know what to do. And then I got a phone call from Lori Perks. She is an investigator, sergeant in the York Regional Police. And she said that it came to her knowledge that it had happened to my mother. And if I could come to the police station, she had a video of me telling about everything for 2.5 hours. And she said the hospital didn't call her still. Just another patient that was raped, her daughter told the CTV about it, but without names.
So this is what I wanted, because the article
Yes.
actually says that there were actually 15 cases.
Yes, it were 4 women in Mackenzie Health that were caught in the middle of the rape. And then, and in our meeting, they told me, we didn't call the police, but we fired him immediately. It wasn't the case. The first woman was raped in March 2015, and Shodjadin Mohammed Zadeh still worked there. They didn't call the police, and they didn't fire him.
And that was the first woman
Yeah.
that we know of.
Yeah. And 4 women were raped and caught in the middle as he raped more, but he was caught. He was fired.
And he was caught by a nurse working for the hospital.
Yes. Nurse, doctors, everyone. And they knew, and they were sticking to the order not to
I just
tell.
want to mention something to the viewer, that we're mentioning those names and we're saying those because there's document.
Of course,
it's
of
all
everything.
It's documented. It's public, public knowledge. If anybody wants to see
And
it, so this is not.
It's on the TV. They
It's on
have
the
it
TV,
in
it's
City
on- yes.
News, in Global, here on the York Region newspaper, on the radio.
He was caught, raping a woman in March.
Yeah.
The first
And
one that we know
I
of.
have all the names of the women who were raped and the date. I got it from the court.
I don't want. we're not
I
gonna
won't
mention
say
that.
it, but
Yeah.
I have them here.
Yeah, because
Here.
it's public. It's public.
Yeah,
record.
with all the dates and everything. So, and I didn't even know, they didn't tell me in the hospital that my mother wasn't the only one who was raped.
Yes.
This was then Lori Perks, the detective, called me a few months later, and she said, Havi, Eva, Are you sitting? They just told me now that they released him from the hospital now. It was much later. And he immediately got a job in Aurora nursing home, and the same day he raped 2 women in the nursing home, all of them 88 to 91 years old. And what happened is, then they let him go, and he was working for
I don't understand.
It's crazy.
Why would they let him go? Like, I mean, nobody charged him?
No. He was twice in jail. After the police knew about it, he was in jail for 2 days, and then he was released for bail of $5,000, and he had conditions. They didn't tell us, but he had conditions not to come near all the patients that were caught raped by him. And he promised to behave, which he, of course, didn't. He did what he knew how to do. And after leaving the 2 women who were raped in Aurora nursing home, he was again 2 days in jail, altogether 4 days. And then he worked for 2 agencies, and he raped an old man in Newmarket at home while taking care of him. And
this is all public record?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So then in January, all of a sudden, I got a messenger with uniform came and gave me an invite to be a witness on June 15th, 2017.
So just, okay. Recently.
Yeah. In the court of Newmarket. Mm-hmm. They had 7 days of witnesses scheduled. I came on the day itself, and on the paper on the door, there were 8 families that were supposed to be the witnesses against the PSW from Mackenzie Health.
Right.
I went inside, and the Crown was calling all the names of everyone, and then he said, that's it. I went to him, and I said, I'm a witness, here is my... And he said, don't worry about it. I closed it 3 days ago, during the weekend.
He closed the case?
He closed the case. And I said, on what grounds? And he said, frail witnesses and frail evidence. And I said, we are here, me and my son.
But never mind you and your son. They were witnesses in the hospital, nurses that are not frail and old.
That's what I told him. And he said, go. You cannot open it. That's it. My son and me, we rushed home like in panic. And then I called the court immediately. I asked to talk to the social worker of the court and to have a meeting with the Crown. In 2 days, we got the meeting with him. We were sitting with her, the social worker, and we came, my son, his fiancé, and me, thank God, because had it been only me, they would have thought that I'm crazy, but I'm not. We were sitting with him, and I told him the whole story and how I was with the meeting after the nurse caught, etc., etc. And then he said, I know. And I said, but where is Shoja Adin now? And he said, he's free. I deleted his 15 assaults out of them. Here it is, out of them. Here, and here is my invite and everything. Out, and here is my... I just have everything. And he said, I deleted everything. 13 out of the 15 assaults were sexual. 2 weren't told to be sexual. One of them that wasn't sexual was that the same man slept an old patient while she walked,
Slapped.
very aggressive,
Slapped her aggressively, okay.
on her butt. This is not sexual. Somehow, and then the Crown offered him with the judge Kenkel, Mr. Kenkel, they offered him a sweet deal just to say guilty for the non-sexual assault.
Why? Do you know why? Like what? Did anybody give you any reason why a man that raped and assaulted?
That's what we asked the Crown, and the Crown is a very handsome Canadian man, and he told us,
But it's
accept it. This is the system.
How can
and they
you
said
accept it?
he is raping now.
He will continue raping.
And they said, I know. We were shocked. I didn't expect him to hug me and to open the case, but tell me what happened. He said, I canceled it. This is the system. He will rape, and he's raping again. And then I asked, and I'm very gentle.
But that is not our system. This is not the Canadian system.
Had it been your mother, what would have you done? And he said, I would have accepted it as well.
No, he wouldn't.
So he said, this is closed. He is free, and his criminal record is completely free. So now he's free, and he can work everywhere. They told him not to work in the hospital for 2 or 3 years. That's it. And there were other things, and the social worker of the court was crying when the Crown just told us everything. And I asked, who closed it? And he said, I did. I decided. There were 10 other Crown attorneys, but he was the main one. Paul K. Tate, T-A-I-T, and he said, I closed it, you have to accept it, and how is your mother, by the way? And I said, she died. And he said, you see, I told you, frail evidences. And I said, all those were caught.
This is not the Canadian way.
Anyway, but he's the justice.
Okay.
He represents the justice, and the hospital represents the health. And this is us. I came because of my mother, but I came for the future of all of us. It can be a pedophile, and the hospital won't call the police and won't tell you.
So let's wrap it up and tell me, what do we want to tell the viewers, and how do you want the Canadian people to help you? And to help us. I mean, we'll all be there someday.
We have goals.
We'll all be frail and old.
We have goals, and we'll never relent until we know that all of us, not about me, it's not personal, will be safe in the safe haven, which is hospital when you are helpless and sick and everything. So we have a few goals that we will follow and fight for. And an earthquake under the hospital, I don't care. So the one thing is governing body for PSWs, because PSWs, they can just come and work. You don't know who. They don't check the record.
It's amazing. I mean, in Canada, you want to work with children.
Yeah.
And anywhere you have to get a police
not PSWs.
You know?
And my other idea is it won't help 100%, but at least it will improve the situation, that PSWs, men will take care of cleaning or private things with men, and women...
But you see, that doesn't solve the problem, because he raped the men as well.
I know, I thought about it, but at least, you know what, we are two women.
Yeah.
The most private things and the respect for us, when we are helpless.
Yes, I agree.
You cannot take this
You
from
know what
us.
I want to see? I want to see a law changed.
Yes,
where the hospital has to report to the police.
Exactly.
When any sexual
not only sexual,
happens.
when any criminal assault happens. Obligatory reporting of any assault to police and families immediately.
Absolutely.
Immediately. And if not, the hospital should be punished like crazy. Now, we want public admitting and apology of each and every one of the management separately, not the hospital apologizes. Each of them publicly apologizing and admitting about it, and my demand will be at first firing off all of the management, then knew about it and hashed. And I have all the names here: the CEO, Altaf Station Walla, Wendy Hooper, Director of Quality and Risk Management, Susan Kolek, Executive Vice President, Heather Riddell, Operations Director for Emergency, Julie Cook, Manager of Employee Relations and Diversity, and Ashton White, Human Resources Director. All of them knew about it, and Mrs. Hooper and the CEO, Mr. Altaf, Station Walla, sent an email, internal email just to the staff: don't tell and share information about it with anyone. When all the global news and city news that we were on,
called them.
They called them and
Yes,
asked them, and they said, no, we cooperated, but we have to call the police only if there's a shot. And then,
that's the law that needs to be changed.
This is not the law. This is what they said.
Okay, but
and then
somebody's got to step
in. And then they called the police, region police, and the police said they didn't tell us, they didn't cooperate with us at all. And they called the families. I didn't know why 2.5 months later they called me, because the police told them, we are going to talk to the families, and then they decided to call the families and to tell them not to talk to the police.
Havi, this is a story that you'll have to come back and tell us again.
Yes.
And tell us how we can continue helping you.
Yes.
And we know we'll continue helping you.
And I want it to go.
But we need to change the laws in Canada, because this is not the Canadian way. This is not who we are.
It wasn't like this. I came to Canada. Canada was paradise.
No, Canada is still not like this, and we still need to change the way it is.
But I ask each and every one of you to look back when you're walking, because Shodza Adin, Mohammed Zadeh, is free.
He's walking the streets.
Yes.
Havi, I'm sorry. I got to cut the show.
Oh, no. Of course. I'm
if anybody
so
can help,
emotional.
If anybody can help, they can contact Havi anytime. Let's make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. I will help you in any way I can. So will, I believe, a lot of the viewers. And let's make sure it does not happen to any other Canadian, to any human being, period.
Of course.
Thank you. And my condolences for your mother.
Thank you for everything.
My pleasure.
For our future.
I'll have to say goodbye and hope to see you next week.